Today we have a servant leader and fixed operations director who is devoted to educating, empowering, and leading to success. Spending the last 15 years in automotive, TC is a leader for the people. Most importantly, a leader for the people, and he's on the Wrench Turners podcast, a show that's about improving the life, well-being, and productivity of mechanics everywhere. And without further ado, let's get into it. TC, thank you very, very much for coming on the show today.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Now, TC, you've been doing this a long time, and you've worked in a couple of different places and with a couple of different brands. And it's interesting how it just from the outside looking in, the couple of shows that you've spoken on when, with SDL and so on and so forth, and some of the feedback I've seen and some of the posts you've made, you're very devoted to leadership as a skill set, as a mantra in the stores that you lead and the content that you make. How, going back 15 years, what took or what did it take to get you into automotive? What was the thing, the catalyst to get you into automotive?
For me, it was cars. Like I grew up kind of a gearhead. My dad was an engineer for Nissan. So in our family, that's all we knew was, that's all he talked about was cars and things going on in the plant and manufacturing. And you got to know how to change a tire. You got to know how to change brakes. You got to know how to change your own oil. You got to know how to take care of yourself, car related. So I grew up, just loving and enjoying everything about the vehicle. I would see cars riding down the road, and me and my sisters would just be, going on a road trip, and we'd be like, "Oh, that's that kind of car. That's a Ford Taurus. That's a a Nissan Maxima," and we just enjoyed everything about cars. And when I got done playing college football, I said to myself, like, what am I gonna do? Like, and of course, why not do what you know, right? Which is anything car related. And then I kind of figured that I wouldn't go the manufacturing route because my dad put me through the summer program at the plant, and I didn't like it. I didn't like putting the seats together. I didn't like the assembly line. I didn't like anything about it at all. And I said, well, I don't know what else I'm going to do besides retail. And my first stint was CarMax. I got an opportunity to work at CarMax. And from there, I just, I enjoyed it so much. I enjoyed the people more than anything. And the camaraderie that you get to build with people, and people really become like a family to you, and it's like a second family. And I really just loved and enjoyed that part of the business, and it just kind of stuck with me. And here I am 21 years later, still rolling along in it, and I'm 40. And I've got probably another 20 years that I'm going to enjoy it and love it even more. So the car business is one of those opportunities that I truly believe if you invest everything you got in it, it gives you more in return.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yes.
The investment in automotive requires a lot of sacrifice.
That's right.
A lot of time, a lot of energy. You're going to sacrifice some relationships. You're going to sacrifice some money. You're going to sacrifice some blood, sweat, and tears, depending on what department you work in.
That's right.
For sure. But one of the things I'd like that you brought up there is, you tried something, genuinely gave it a go. The manufacturing line, it's not for everybody. But it reaffirmed that you want to do something with automotive, just not necessarily that. And that's something that we need to make sure that we emphasize more often as leaders, that just because you come into this industry, whether it's from the variable side, you become a salesperson, or you become a mechanic, or you become service advisor, you can do a lot with the skills that you learn in this industry. There's lots and lots and lots you can do within, around, first party, third party, so on and so forth. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. Secondly, it's interesting, as someone who played college ball, what part of that coaching, what part of that playing, what part of that do you think you could relate that you used coming into automotive?
Yeah. So the coaching part of it, and I love the coach, and I talk about that a lot when I'm on calls and stuff, and coaching on the service drive and being out in front of people and proactively educating. I learned that from my dad. My dad coached my twin sisters who played college basketball. They're my height. They've been my height since they were in sixth grade. So I grew up in a house with twin towers, and they did used to beat on me a little bit. But I got that from my dad. My dad would always tell me there's one thing that he would always say when he would get irritated with us, he would say, if you're not gonna go full speed, don't go at all.
Mm.
And it would stick with me. And there's been times throughout my career where I've questioned myself whether I'm going full speed or not, and whether I need to back out of something and change the trajectory of my career or my life, because I'm not going full speed because maybe I don't enjoy it, or it's just not for me, or there's other things around me that are affecting me going full speed. And playing football, it was, if you're not going full speed, you're going to get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And in life, it's very similar too. If you're not going full speed with your career and your goals that you want to achieve, then you're probably going to hurt yourself
Mm-hmm.
in your life, in your career. You're probably going to be stagnant. You're probably going to become complacent. So I learned a lot of coaching aspects from my dad, and he still coaches today. He coaches AU girls basketball from ages 9 to 18,
Mm-hmm.
and I listened to him, and over the years, the things that how he would pour into his players, and not just the players, but the parents. It was accountability across the board. It wasn't anything that he said that he feared would come back on him, to the point where somebody will say that you misled me on. So,
Mm.
for me, coaching is accountability. Well, one, it's expectations, and then it's accountability across the board. You treat everybody the same way. And in our business, there becomes a lot of cults and a lot of people, a lot of circles and stuff. And I've had the luxury of staying away from it. I don't want to be part of somebody's cult. I don't want to be part of somebody's circle. I want to be part of the team. This isn't an individual sport. It's a team effort. Not one person's going to win. Everybody's going to win when we're going to win. So, and that still sticks with me today. So I get my coaching from my father, and I still get it from him today. Even on our phone calls, he, just talks to me about life and raising my kids. I have a teenager, and how hard it is to raise a teenager versus raising a teenager when I was a teenager. So, he still coaches me himself, and I really enjoyed having that relationship with him.
Awesome. I appreciate that very much, and I'm coming up to similar circumstances myself. Little man is 11, going on 17, and we
Yeah.
have we have no idea. Like it's there are so many things that are different now than there was
Hmm.
25, 30 years ago when we were the same age, and access and communication and
Yeah.
all of those things are so different, so tremendously different. And I liken that to leadership because that's really all parenting is.
Yep.
Like it's
Yes.
it's it's the same thought process. I think in business, if you can treat people like children without treating them like children,
Hmm.
that is the best form of leadership you can possibly muster.
Agreed. Hmm.
Um, because at the end of the day, everybody needs a little bit of praise. At the end of the day, everybody needs a little bit of discipline. At the end of the day, everybody needs to, not discipline, sorry, processes. They need to know what the rules are. They need to know what the boundaries are. From a coaching standpoint, that's really what a coach is. You are a
Hmm.
leader, you're a coach, you're a parent. They're all kind of the same thing. The only difference is with a parent is, when they're 8, 9, 10 years old, they're a child.
Their
You,
child. That's
you,
right.
you
Yeah.
treat them like children. But
Hmm.
if you remove the emotion from that, from a leadership standpoint, that's exactly what it is. It's the same
Hmm.
things. It's the rules, regulations, boundaries, processes that you can make a team win or a person win, to that point, which is awesome. Which is why I personally believe that everyone needs to play a team sport growing up because they need to learn to take instruction,
Yep.
from somebody who isn't their parent. They need to they need to learn how to follow, period. Because I think the most important part of leadership that is currently being lost is that folks don't know how to follow. Like blindly being led is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone who can who can respect the person in charge enough to say, I'm going to do as you ask.
That's right.
It's a simple request. You're in a business. You're being paid to do a thing. Do that thing. Now, is it the same thing I tell my son? Is it dangerous or going to cause you harm or anybody around you? Potentially. Speak up.
Yep.
But if it's not, do the thing. Figure out what the result happens after doing the thing, and then talk about it. Hey, I followed the instruction. These are the things that have happened along the line. Can I suggest that we do something slightly different as part of this process? Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That is
So,
the whole give and take. But
yeah,
unless you are willing to respect the person that's in the authority position enough to follow, you yourself can't get into a position where they were and then lead because you don't know what it is like to actually follow.
that's right. So, like, we just had a conversation this morning in one of the stores and had a shop foreman, service manager, had the lead lube tech, and we were talking about the business and it being chaotic and how do you manage chaos, and of course you manage it from out front, but like y'all, the store got to a certain point to where it is. The store got to a certain point to where it is right now because of what they didn't do beforehand.
I tried to not come in, TC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're fine. What they didn't do beforehand. So now, how do we change the future? It starts now. It's not going to change immediately, but 3 to 6 months down the road, you will see the fruits of that labor and the things that we're adjusting to and changing now. And then I also, mentioned that, one of the best things that as a leader that you can do is to gain respect from people, especially on the technician side, is listen.
Mm-hmm.
Like it took me a long time to realize that I'm not the expert in that field. Like, I didn't spend $50,000 to $75,000 to go to school. I didn't spend $100,000 in tools. I didn't do all that stuff. Like I don't know what they know. I know the business side of it, but I don't know what that technician knows. So one of the things that makes me really successful when it comes to having a relationship with a technician is I shut the hell up and I listen, because there's great information coming from them. It's not the information coming because they want it to be their way, but when they get into a team environment and they feel like this is a really good place. I really like TC. I really like the service advisors. But there's some things that we should change. As a leader, you should listen. And sometimes where we fail at is we don't listen. We don't take advice. We say it's my way or it's no other way.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's a team way. It's whatever works best for the team. And that's what I'd say when we exited that meeting this morning was, I want you guys to write down every single thing that we talked about, every single possible solution that we talked about. And as a team, we're going to figure out what works best for the store. It's not going to be one person's way. It's going to be everybody's way, because everybody's going to buy into that way. Most people don't buy into the dictatorship.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't. So I think, one of the best aspects of a leader is being able to shut your mouth and listen. So
I wholeheartedly agree that leadership is listening and giving them the opportunity to speak first, and then actually listening to the answer. Speaking last, and the Simon Sinek quote, leaders speak last, or leaders eat last,
right.
or however that phrase goes.
And that's the same relationship with customers too.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about it, if you interrupt customers as they speak, you're going to do the same with your employees. If you interrupt your employees as they speak, you're going to do the same with your customers. So you're treating the people that take care of your business the same exact way. Like I said, the listening is one of the things that's missing, that I feel has been missing for years in this business, because everybody wants it to be their way. When at the end of the day, it's not. I mean, I don't get to, like, I can go right on a whiteboard and say, we had a great month. We did this. We won all these accolades. We got TLE, Toyota awards, but I didn't do it. My team did it. I mean, I was part of the process and part of implementing the process and holding people accountable to what I expected. But at the end of the day, did I really do the groundwork? No, my people bought in to what we all decided that we wanted to do to achieve this goal.
It's interesting you say that too, because one of the things that I keep seeing over and over again now that I talk to way more technicians and now the opportunity to talk to way more leaders like yourself is how important high value leaders are. And I don't think we talk about it enough, and there's not enough buy in from entry level to mid level technicians, especially. That's where I know the most. That they don't understand how important it is to pick the right leader
Mm-hmm.
and how impactful and how aggressively impactful the right leader for you and the team can be. Like there are I've heard stories about stores who have gone through leader after leader after, like, for my own life, my own history. I was at a store that went through 5 service managers in 2 years.
Mm,
Like, one, that's a problem at the top level of that
that's right.
particular store because it
Agreed.
means that they can't stay with something long enough to figure out whether it works or not. But obviously, they're not making any impact at all from a business standpoint, let alone the team to actually move the needle. When you get into a position where we hear stories, and I have stories myself where a high value leader has a dramatic effect on the store and quickly, you can see how the varying degrees of success can move. And when you have a whole gigantic mass of people like technicians who on average are saying they're not making enough money, they're not turning enough hours, they're not doing enough things, well, more than likely you're dealing with an average at best leader who's not able to move the needle. They're probably not listening.
Yeah.
They're probably interrupting their customers. They're probably interrupting the team during discussions. Like those are probably the things that are happening to most of those people. Whereas you
Yep.
talk, like we're saying, listening to both the people who produce for the company as well as the people who pay for the company. If
That's
you're
right.
constantly interrupting them,
Yeah.
right? So
Yep.
that leads me to the next question. So your father heavily influenced your early years enough to love cars. Your father influenced your teenage years enough for you to try into manufacturing once you had the opportunity to come out of college.
Mm-hmm.
Once you got into a store, what was that first year like, and what were you doing?
Ugh. When I got an actual store, let's just pass CarMax. I'll say I went to a Chevy store, and I was a service advisor. And it was early in my career, and full transparency, I partied a lot. I did. I partied a lot. I was the crash at 12 o'clock guy, they would call me.
Mm,
I was the guy that would grind it from door open till lunchtime and get back to my desk, and I'd be dead.
mm,
And what made me figure out quickly that this is one of those business that you can't play around one with people's time or money was that, I got terminated within 3 months because I had bad CSI, because I struggled to call people back. I said, man, you have all the tools. You know about cars, you speak well with people, you smile all the time. You just smile all the time. And people love you. It's like, but you don't call them back. I said, He said, but you
it's
fail to
so
call people
important.
back. Yeah, you fail to call people back. And look, man, they terminated me. And what's crazy is that I went to work in a factory, riding a forklift just in between time. And I was like, man, I really want to work in the automotive business. I really like that job. So it was one of those times where in my life where I had to look in the mirror and go, all right, like, I mean, I can still hang out with my friends, but my career is more important. And they called me back 2 months later. It was like, hey, we really like you. We want to give you another shot at the Ford store. said, okay, I'll come do it. And I did it. And I did it for 3 months. And then they put me back in the Chevy store. And then, the rest is history from there. But it was one of those things where I've had to hit the reset button 2 or 3 times in my career. And I've had to do it recently where it was look in the mirror, own your problems, and accept them so you can move on to bigger and better things, which is furthering your career and being able to take care of a family. So that was a quick reset button for me. But to tell you that my first 3 months were great, they were not. I'd be lying if I told you that they were smooth sailing, they were perfect. I killed it. I wrote the most service. I averaged the most hours per RO. I had the best EOR, but I didn't call people back at all. And once I realized that the follow up is more important than the dollar, and not any inconvenience in people's life is more important than the dollar, my career advanced. It really did. So
It's an underwhelming thing that we don't. Sorry, it's an overwhelming thing that we don't put enough emphasis on, whether it's through onboarding or continued skill advancement. In my opinion, the follow up and follow through can make or break a business as a whole.
agree.
Right. One of the complaints that I used to get as a fixed ops director, as a service manager, GM, is you don't call back. And it wasn't at the time, wasn't necessarily directed at me. It was directed at the business. Like I called and nobody answers the phone. I call, I left a message, nobody calls me back. I texted, nobody texted me back. These are regular complaints that we get in automotive as a whole. So much so is that there's an entire industry built around phone calls, texts, and so on and so forth, whether it's
Yeah.
automated or service based like BDC. And even still, we as an industry, I don't think we're nearly good enough at the follow up and
We
the
still
follow
fail.
through on those things, right? So one of the things that you do using your coaching guideline, Dad taught you a lot about coaching. You use it on a regular basis now as coaching. How do you coach service advisors, and let's say this would be applied to any technicians out there who are making phone calls themselves, because there are a whole bunch of small shops that listen to the show. If you're a technician or a service advisor that does calls and texts and so on and talks to customers, what do you teach your team to do? Is there a process? Do you have a series of processes? Do you have something specific? Like, how do you upskill follow up, follow through?
Yeah. So, you know, the way I coach now, and a lot of people have said it's weird because, we're in a business of sell, 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 sell. But one thing that I know is that without the relationship, there is no sell. There is no continued sell. You might sell one time, but you don't get to sell the next time. So, I coach the advisors, and I'm here at a store this week coaching, and the only thing that we talked about was how do we build a relationship with our customers? Because the number one key metric in our business right now is retention, and longevity pays the bills. The more customers that are returning to your store spending money pays the bills. So there's processes that we have in place, like the customer interview on the service drive, which I think is the most important piece to writing service. It is the most important piece to writing service right now. Is how do you enter? How do you interview your customer on the service drive, not at the desk, on the service drive? Do you meet them at the car? Do you ask them if they got an appointment, or do you scan the car and verify that they have an appointment? Do you make them feel welcome? Do you smile? Do you empathize with the customer? Empathize meaning listen. Do you listen to the customer's concern to better provide solutions to better take care of the customer? Not looking at a dollar figure as a car comes through the service drive and say, oh man, that's a 5-year-old car. It's got 8,000 miles on it. I'm gonna get that one next. That's not how we want to coach our people in this business. We want to coach them to build relationships. We want to coach them to be able to know customers on a first name basis. We want to coach them to be able to be organized, to be able to do the follow up. You can't do the follow up if you're not organized, and I truly believe that. A service advisor on the service drive, if he's not organized, he will miss a follow up 90% of the time. He will miss
Agreed.
it. He will he will
Wholeheartedly agreed.
he will miss it 90% of the time. And like, also, it's confident advisors help a lot also. When I say advisors that are confident, meaning advisors that can do the meet and greet and they can do the write up and be able to set a confident expectation to be able to follow up on versus that expectation of, well, it might be tomorrow at 2. Tomorrow at 2 or tomorrow afternoon leaves the customer with the opportunity to make whatever perceived time they want to make. So therefore, we'll never meet those expectations. So
Hmm.
being confident, but the advisor doesn't have that luxury of being confident unless the processes within are built to better for that advisor to be confident with what they're presenting to the customer. So, people and processes are important, but as we're talking about the follow up, there's processes in place in stores right now that I work with that have status call sheets, and they're live sheets where if a customer calls in and regardless of what it is, if nobody answers the phone, then it goes directly to the status call sheet. And who all's on the status call sheet? Every single person employed in the service department. Because guess what? It becomes an awareness thing. It doesn't become a Tim's problem. It becomes a store problem. That way, it triggers everybody to make that phone call to that customer, to somebody to reach out to that customer and get back to them in a timely manner. So, follow up is like one of those words that it intertwines with convenience, because if we're not following up, we're inconveniencing people.
100%.
So,
100%.
I mean,
The two things that I think stand out, at least up top of mind, is that having a status call sheet and it being a business problem, not an individual problem,
hmm
makes it a team,
yeah, it's a
right?
team problem.
It and that same status call sheet, if it's the same advisor's customer over and over again, it becomes an awareness for the team
Yeah,
leadership. But if it's a little peppering of everybody, it means that, maybe we need to add someone to the roster,
that's right.
right?
Yeah,
If you've got five to every single advisor every single day, it means maybe you need another body to answering the
yeah,
phones if
yeah,
everybody's following processes.
that's right.
Conversely, if you've got 25 from one advisor or
Yeah,
12
yeah,
each from two advisors, right? So I like that. And secondly, that I'm trying to remember the quote here, but it's something along the lines of confident competence, and it's a circle between the two. I find that advisors and technicians alike, and myself in this room right now recording these sessions, especially this session with you, if I'm able to speak eloquently and simply about something, I understand it. Same thing happens with advisors and technicians. If they don't understand, let's go to the quote is, if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well enough.
that's right. Yeah,
That cycle of competence proceeds into the confidence. You can
yeah,
speak confidently about something if you're competent in it, and vice
yeah,
versa. And
yeah,
you also then have to practice it like 1,000 bloody times in order to
yeah,
get it right every single time. That's where you remove the ums, the ahs, the ohs,
yeah,
during the interview, during the walk around, during the meet and greet, during the phone calls, during the follow up, during the as Michael Barrett said this morning on All Things Fixed Ops, the goodbye.
yeah,
How important the goodbye to me is within, I would say, 5% of the importance of the
yeah,
interview, like you suggested. The interview is the most important thing. Absolutely, unequivocally, it's the most important thing. And you can fuddle and fuss around the stuff in between, because that's so variable. Like, there's so much variation in the middle that is
yeah,
very difficult to dictate. You can life tracks, I think, is the phrase I heard recently. But the interview at the beginning and the goodbye at the end, you need to nail it
yeah,
every single time, right? And that's that confidence. So taking that to a next step, you've been working that over time. You're now working with doing multiple stores and multiple teams and so on and so forth. What got you from writing service not in a way that was effectual, so
Yeah.
much so that they parted ways with you for a period of time, to bring you back on and then becoming successful to a point. What happened and what occurred to take you from being a service advisor to now to the point where you're leading teams through service?
So I worked for a pretty big group, and got recognized to roll into like a shop dispatcher, shop/shop foreman role. And it was a weird role, because I didn't go to school to be a tech, but
Mm-hmm.
I understood the tech language enough, and I understood the process of the shop flow from the advisor to dispatch to the shop, and then back from the shop to dispatch to the advisor as far as how you want to communicate. And and I really wanted to grow. Like I had already told the fixed ops director, I was like, man, I really want to grow. Like I spoke it into existence. Like I don't want to be a service advisor for the next 2 or 3 years. Like I want to do something different. So like if there's other stores that need help doing something different besides writing service, then I'll do it. But I'll continue to write service if I need to write service. And just putting that out there and letting them know that, hey, this guy wants to grow. Like they listen, and that was one of those things that stuck with me, and I'm forever grateful for them for hearing me. And they said, all right, well, here's an opportunity. He was like, we know your background. I was like, we know that you're not a tech, but we know that you can run a shop. So I took over a shop dispatcher, shop foreman role in a Chevy store that had 32 techs and 5 advisors. And at the time, I was still, I mean, I was probably 24,
Mm-hmm.
probably 24. And the shop guys in the shop, had some longevity. They've been there 10, 12, 14 years. And they looking at me and they're like, who is this little
Mm-hmm.
freaking guy coming over here telling us what to do? We don't even have a shop foreman nor a dispatcher, and it's like a new role. And And I remember me and the service manager and all the techs sat down in the office, and they said, "All right, this is TZ Coleman. He comes from the Ford store. He's going to be in a shop foreman / dispatch type role. We feel it's a need for our store. As our store is growing, we need that person that's in between to do the communication between the technician and advisor, from advisor to tech. And he's going to take over it. He's going to put a process in place. He wants to own it. It's all his. I'm letting him have it." And literally, it was like nobody said anything. All the texts were like, "What the fuck is this shit? Like,
Mm-hmm.
like what is this? Like, what is going on?" And of course, you have those 1 or 2 guys who are like, "Oh, he don't have any experience. He can't tell me what to do."
Mm-hmm.
So, and did I have some fear? Yeah, I did. I mean, I went home that night and was like, man, what am I gonna do? Like, how am I gonna get buy-in? How am I gonna earn respect? And that's one of those roles that you're like, oh, you need to earn the respect of the guys. And within 2 weeks, it was, you still had the 1 or 2 guys that pissed and moaned and groaned. And my sister had her first child, and I went to her house and I was over there and I was talking to her about it, and she was like, "Here," she was, "take these pacifiers." She's like, take these pacifiers, take them to work with you. And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Take it to work." She said, "Every time a technician bitch, you put one on his box."
That's amazing.
So let me tell you how much fun we had with this. Like the first technician that bitch, I took a pink pacifier and I taped it to his toolbox, and I said, "You have to wear this for 24 hours." And I said, "If you remove it, I've told the service manager, I said, I get to send you home." And he wore it for 24 hours. Guess who bitched? The next 3 years I did that job, guess who did the bitching? Nobody. Nobody bitched. Nobody complained. We all became a team, and we all figured out how we're going to be successful in this shop. And that shop today, I'll tell you, that shop today, they built a new store, and it's a 100 bay store.
Shoo.
It's a 100 bay store, has 12 advisors, a Ford store in Nashville, Tennessee. And I'm not saying that had anything to do with it. I had anything to do with it, but I'll tell you that, that some successful things start somewhere. And for my career, that was a stepping stone um, for me. And from there, I ended up taking on a service manager role in a Chevy store, and I did the same thing there. I took the pacifiers with me, and there's like this young guy.
TT Coleman, the pacifier.
It's like this young guy
Marvelous.
is not gonna tell me what to do, and literally I stuck one on the guy's toolbox, and I promise you, it became the joke. And then there was times where guys would come in the office and they would grab the pacifiers out my drawer and walk around and with one sucking on them. Like, man, y'all's taking this way too far. But
Hey,
it
but
was
that's the camaraderie,
but it
man.
was one of those things that like it changed the
It's not.
morale.
It's not a good team until you can insult the
Yeah,
living pants off
but you get
the person in the bay
but
next to you.
but it's like it's one of those things like we spend so much time with each other in these stores. It's like we got to figure out a way to
Mm-hmm.
have fun and make money. Like you got to figure out a way to combine those two, because having making money and being miserable is really is what pushes people out of the car business. Because there's been some really successful people that I know in this, but they've been miserable as hell and they got out. So you
Mm-hmm.
got to figure out a way to mix fun along with making money,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how we did it, and that's how we did it early, and then the opportunities just continued to come, and you know I I think about my last 4 years, and this is a transparent conversation here. So I think about my last 4 years of my career where I picked my family up and we moved from Nashville to Mississippi,
Mm-hmm.
which everybody questioned, like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And I needed a change. I needed a change of scenery. I needed an adjustment. And I think my family needed it. I knew my kids needed it because they were in really, really big schools. And my youngest, I felt, wasn't getting the education she needed. And there are some really, really good schools in this area. And so we took a leap. We took a leap of faith. Career wise, I'll tell you. And there was just some decisions that I made on my own. It didn't go well. It did not. But the full picture for me was knowing that while my career was I felt was kind of stagnant by choice. There was things that I'd done. There's things that probably I said that probably put me in a position where I felt like I was going backwards, but my kids were thriving. I mean, that's all I could think about. Like I was like, man, my career is kind of not where it really wants to be, but my kids are thriving. My 11-year-old went from a low C student to a, she's the last 3 years she's been a straight A student.
Mm-hmm.
My teenager now, she did archery for like 9 years. She's a corporal in ROTC. She almost just became a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Like my kids are thriving. So I had to really, honestly, I put my career aside and I told myself, like, I'm not even gonna think about it. Like, I'll figure it out. I'll figure out a way to make sure food's on the table, make sure bills are paid, make sure my kids can do the things that they want to do, and my time will come again. I was like, but my kids are thriving because at one point we thought we were gonna have to move back.
Mm-hmm.
We thought we were, and I knew how much my kids really loved where they were, and I had to hit a reset button on myself, and I had to figure it out, and and I did. I did. I hit a reset button, and I looked myself in the mirror and I said, "Look, dude, like you got to stop looking around. You got to stay. You got to stop pointing the fingers at people for the reasons why you are where you are, and own your shit.
Mind your bay.
Stay in
Right.
your lane, bro." And that's like, and that it's just one of those things. It was like, all right, let's take a step back. Matter of fact, let's not take one step back. I probably took 2 or 3 steps back. And I said to myself, like, I'm going to go out and do what I love to do, which is work with people. And I'm going to reach out to some old friends that I know in the car business and see if they need any help in their stores. 2 or 3 of them reached back out and was like, hey, man, absolutely. Come on in. So I figured out a way to get by until I found myself again. And here I am today. And one of the stores that brought me in to do some consulting for three days out of a week. And I said, I'll do it. Yeah. So I was in the store for 3 days out of a week. The store was an hour and 40 minutes from my house.
Hmm. That's hard.
That's a lot of driving. That's a lot of driving, and I'm in a vehicle that gets about 13 miles per gallon. So
Yeah.
it was just one of those things. It's like, all right, here we go. Let's go. This is God saying, this is your opportunity. I'm not going to hand it to you, right? This is your
Purpose is
opportunity.
so impactful.
Yes, this is
I
your
can't
opportunity.
I cannot speak highly enough of the impact that purpose can have
Yeah,
on our life. And it's me. I have no idea what it's like from the opposite side of the coin, how women are in this industry, how women are in general. I can only speak for myself and what little experience I have at large, but purpose has changed my life. And understanding how important it is for me to be present at home as much as I can possibly be present at home, because there's that line in the sand, right? Somebody who is breadwinner or primary income earner in a household, if they're home all the time, that's a problem,
yeah,
right? That's a
yeah,
problem. Unless obviously in my circumstance, I work from home. So that's a
yeah.
completely different story. But if I'm not in this office, right, I'm not making money,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there is a line to that. And then the secondary portion is, if you're not, the phrase is, if you find something you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life. That's wrong. Because no matter how much you love the thing that you do, there is always going to be an onslaught of shit that you don't want to do that's
Yeah.
still part of the thing that you love to do. It's
Right.
still hard,
Yep.
right? But one of the cool things about all that is not that you necessarily love what you do, is that you have purpose in doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, if there's something about it that allows you to complete something that is for more than just yourself, whether it might be as quote unquote small enough that it's just your family that you're doing it for. That's not small, right? You're impacting at least one other life, if not two, three, four. Like you've got several children. You are impacting their lives tremendously. That is purpose.
Yep.
The secondary portion is you're doing kind of the same thing day to day, where you're impacting several people's lives every single day to, self-admittedly, smiling all the time. That's feedback that you've gotten over your career. You're smiling all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That positive energy is infectious,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's a great way to lead to I'm going to use that bonus question to last. And this question first is, what would be the one piece of advice that you'd have for technicians that you've learned over your career to help them be happier, healthier, more productive?
Speak up. I, that advice is, I think that technicians have a lot of questions about the business that they don't know the ins and outs, and I think it's important for them to speak up and ask those questions because, speak up, ask those questions, but also speak up when it comes to self care, when it comes to taking care of your mental health. Um, we're in a time, things are changing in the world and they're always evolving. The business is always evolving and changing, but um, know that you have a voice and don't let anybody take it away from you.
Awesome. That's awesome. That's like the fourth or fifth person in the last 30 days that have given me that same piece of advice for technicians, is to speak up. And the only caveat that I always give is make sure you're doing it professionally.
Yeah, yeah,
Don't let TC get the pacifier out.
yeah. That's
Right.
right. That's right. And that's the thing. Like most, like I've always had an open door policy. I don't like shut doors, even when I'm having conversations with people. It's not like I'm in there yelling or screaming because I don't do that at all. And it's like I want people to be able to speak with me about their battles, so I can help them be better at their job. I think that's a missing aspect when it comes to being a leader is that we talk about the multi-point. It was like, oh, you didn't do this or you didn't do that or you didn't do that. Well, like, man, okay, what's going on in your head, Tim? Like, are you okay? Like, there's things that you need to get out that you can't get out at home. Like, I mean, there's so much more to being a leader in this business than that almighty dollar that we preach about. Um, if we're able to listen and understand our people, to be able to relate to them on a different level, man, they will go to bat for you. They will. They will go to bat for you. But if you leave them out to dry, you walk by him and don't speak to him in the morning. You walk by him, don't pat him in the back or shake his hand. In the back of his head, he's saying "F you, bro. You don't care
Every
about me."
time.
He's saying "F you, bro. You don't care about me." I promise you, he is. You may not think he is, but you that's what he's saying. I promise
That
you.
shop walk is so important.
I
I
love the
can't
shop walk.
I cannot emphasize it enough how important genuine conversation
Mm-hmm.
is, and learning to know when and when not to engage in conversation, right? There is a fine line. Body language matters, facial features and how they represent in
Yeah.
your presence, they matter,
Yeah.
right? All of that's really vitally important, and taking care of them as leader is vitally important. I think I'm gonna here we go. Here's our bonus question before we end off this today. So the last person I recorded with was Charles Cannon the third, and I
He's
asked him
scanning.
what's a question to ask the next guest. So this is Charles' question. What do you, TC? What do you do to take care of yourself physically and mentally on a daily basis?
Mm. Well, my day starts with, of course, gratefulness. Um, I always find one or two things to be grateful for. There's days I wake up and I'm like, shit's exhausting, and tiring. But I don't let it stand in my way of finding things that empower my smile, um, which are, and the simplest things for me are, my kids, um, having a house to sleep in, a bed to sleep in every night. And I try to keep it simple. And sometimes I search, and sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to search for those things that you're grateful for, to get your day started. But I encourage all to keep it as simple as possible, because most of the things that we are grateful for, that we're blinded by, are really just sitting right in our face.
Mm-hmm.
That we could just even write it down. Just write one or two, three things down a day that you're grateful for, and see how impactful they are for your day. And I've dealt with some health issues over the past 2 or 3 months, and man, it's really open. It's really opened my eye to a lot of things, that doesn't have anything to do with work at all. It really doesn't. It really doesn't. I couldn't imagine, a life not being able to say I'm grateful for my kids or my wife, or the conversations that I have with mom every so often. But I think simplicity, keeping it simple is key, when it comes to starting your day. We get to hear all these guys talk about, I wake up at 4:30 a.m. I read 100,000 pages and all this stuff. Look, bro, look, look. Let me be honest with you. One, you probably ain't doing it. Two, that's not. It's not sensible. It doesn't make sense to do all that stuff. Gratefulness provides energy. It really does for me. And we talk about that. You mentioned the shop walk, and I had a technician the other day ask me, he was like, "Are you ever mad?" And I was like, no. It's like, I said, I'm thankful. And because he'll see me walking with my coffee, and I'll be smiling, I'll be picking with people, I'll be just shooting the shit, and before the day starts, and my energy feeds off to everybody else. Like that one technician that could have woke up on the wrong side of the bed, something bad could have happened. Guess what? You just sparked that guy's day just because of your energy. So, as a leader, your energy matters more than you think. Your energy is powerful. So, I
Mm-hmm.
encourage you to find gratefulness in your morning, whether it's you waking up, having a cup of coffee, sitting in peace, putting your phone down. Don't touch it for the first 30 minutes that you wake up. Just really soaking up the morning, soaking up the blessing that you have that you're awake, and then go attack the day. Guess what? It ain't gonna change. The day's the same. The car business is the same.
Mm-hmm.
The car business is the same. You're not gonna wake up and be in a bad mood and pray and walk in one day. Oh my God, my blessing happened. Like I don't have to do this anymore. No, it's the same. So why not be thankful for the opportunity? It's that quote.
Exactly. I get to,
It
not I
that
have.
quote. That's right. It's that quote
I
right there.
get
You
to,
get to.
not
Why
I have
not
to.
you
I
have to?
get to wake up. I get to
Yes.
have coffee with my wife in the morning. I
Yes.
get to go to work. I get
Yep.
to go out tonight. I get to drive 3 hours so that my son can go to soccer. I get to go to
Yes.
the gym.
Yes.
I get, not
Yes.
I have.
Yep.
Right? So I appreciate that very much, and I think that's a great way to end. Oh, actually, we got to make sure that we do it for the next. So let's make sure we leapfrog this. So what's a question that you have that you're gonna ask the question, and the next guest is gonna answer?
Um. What makes a leader a strong leader?
What makes a leader a strong leader? I love that. I love that,
Yeah. What
folks.
makes a leader a strong leader?
Oh, I can't wait. I genuinely have no idea who the next person I record with is. Like I said, I've got like 6 or 7 in the
Yeah.
tank that I still record with, so I'm looking forward to getting that to the next person. Folks, that's a great way to end the show. And I really appreciate all of you. There's lots of you out there listening around the road. I appreciate every single last one of you. The likes, the comments, the share, the subscribe. I appreciate every single last one of it. And as we end the show, as we always do, with a quote, and I've been nailing these every single time. The first and most important choice a leader makes is the choice to serve, without which one's capacity to lead is severely limited. Robert Greenleaf.
I love it. Can I add one to it?
Bring it.
Can I add? Because I had just saved this and it stuck with me. And it's related to what you just said. Come on, come on. I don't wanna. I don't wanna. It says the more you help other people become successful, the more success finds you.
And
Yeah.
on that bombshell, negative pushes,
Yeah.
positive pulls, and
Yeah.
always clean your toys before you
That's
put them
right.
away.
I love it.